Hey, welcome back to the Kingsway Podcast. Glad you're here. I have a couple of special guests with me today. Introducing them this morning as 20-year-old friends, which I don't know if you realize.
I'm older than 20.
It was actually 21 years ago.
I'm more than
19.
21.
We met at the Paradise Baker that no longer exists there at Queen Creek.
I forgot about that.
Yeah, we hung out a little bit. And we also were playing basketball. You were trying to recruit me on your basketball team.
I was.
Yes, you were like...
We would have won if you would have been on our team. We would have won the championship if you would have accepted.
I kept rolling my ankles, and
yeah,
you kept getting thrown around a little bit. That's what I remember.
You were the one guy I didn't like playing against. So I'm like, I'm just going to get him on my team.
It was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Well, Matt and Shanna Myers are here. They are, I guess, missionaries. That was so weird when you talked about that earlier. I was like, yeah, I guess you are officially. Just getting underway, I should say, just starting their mission opportunity for the next few years with Go Ministries out of Louisville. And we just wanted to bring on the podcast. There's a high probability that you'll be one of our new partners here at Kingsway. We have an elders meeting Saturday, so... official.
We'll just wait.
It's fine. But in that likelihood, we'd like to get the possible mission partners on here. And while you guys are in town, we couldn't help but take advantage of the opportunity to do it while you're here.
Yeah.
And knowing how soon you guys are moving as well, just like a month and a half away, the opportunity to do this maybe a little bit further away than... than just a couple hundred miles or a couple thousand. So I guess what we want to do is just take a chance to get to know you a little bit, have a chance for those that maybe missed the service today because you had to preach. And then obviously we had our staff and elders that could make it come to a little meeting afterwards. So I hate to do this, but it's basically like repeating yourself so that we can have a record of it.
It actually makes it easier.
So I guess our history, we met, and I know you from what was Chandler Christian Church back in 2003, 2004, which is wild to say that. And then we also share an alma mater at Ozark Christian College.
Yeah.
And we were one of the pastors that was the reason we ended up going there. I don't know if you knew that. There was 7 of you guys on staff when I was there. And it took 6 of us, and I think 3 of us graduated.
Wow. That's actually above average.
That's what I was just to say. Well, 2 of them only made a semester. So, I was like... But yeah, so there's a lot of connections, and we're really excited. So I guess, Matt, Shanna, what is Go Ministries? What is this thing that you're doing? Obviously, I let the cat out of the bag. You guys are going to the DR here, Dominican Republic. How'd you find yourselves in this position? I mean, you weren't missionaries a month ago. Or 2 months ago.
Right.
Right.
You want to go?
You tell me.
Go? Yeah. Got a lot of leverage off the go.
Go with it.
Yeah. I'm just going to go with it. Here we go. And other puns. Great question. Like I was telling your staff earlier and elders, about 4 years ago, we, maybe 5 now, but right after COVID, basically, so about 4 years ago, we took a trip with our church, a short-term mission trip, because a lot of the trips that we had planned in the past couldn't happen during that time for whatever, and the momentum of people going on trips was
pretty low.
Yeah, and we wanted our church to experience missions, so we were thinking, how could we get them out there, not for necessarily an easy trip, but maybe something that's a little more doable for the average person that's not either independently wealthy or retired or, whatever, where they could go experience something cross-cultural and be able to see church planting, social justice, people serving an area that is open to the gospel because in the DR, they speak Spanish.
Yep.
It's a very hospitable culture, family culture, celebrating culture.
Yeah.
And so it's a little different than like American sometimes where you're pulling teeth to get them to come to something because of their schedule.
Yeah.
It's not like they're
Oh, yeah.
anti-gospel or anything like that, but it's just busy.
Oh, yeah. American church is busy, if anything. America is busy, and the American church is even such. So, had your girls ever been on a mission trip before when you took them on this? Was this their first?
That was their very first.
They had been on some short-term things to...
Correction, that was not their first.
Well,
Indian reservation.
okay, but out of the country?
First, they've been to Mexico, which is relatively close in Arizona. But this was their first big trip.
Off-continent.
Yes.
Yeah, and that's... Well, and it had... Did you guys go with them on those as well?
We didn't. Those were more like youth trips. So
this was the
first time we got to go as a family.
First family one. And, what's crazy is I have... When I was 16... I went to Santiago, Chile with my dad. And that was like one of those, like, stayed in a house, family prepared. Like, I remember
How was that?
It was wild. Hey, the flight was like 17 hours from Miami. Like, I think it's like the plane stayed in the air for 17 hours or whatever it was. I just remember, like, I might have been 11, but it was like more. I was like, as long as I'd been on a plane.
It's not one of
ever.
those electric planes, like the Tesla, 230 miles.
Well, it's like, how many times are you going to go to the bathroom?
Right.
Not if you're going to go to the bathroom. But then my wife actually went on a trip with him and the group to Peru.
Okay.
And so what's funny is he takes credit for us getting together is because he came back and was like, that girl has grit. You can marry her.
I can confirm he takes credit.
Did he say that?
I just talked to him an hour ago after the service. I haven't seen Joe for 13 years. And within the 5-minute span of that conversation, he took credit for you and Katrina.
Yep. What's funny though is he had mentioned that on a trip. I was dating someone else, big surprise. But then when we started working together in ministries, she could handle all the stress, and it was like one of those where I was like, oh, I remember him mentioning that.
It's not for everybody.
Well, I say all that to say, like, I feel like for her that was a huge thing, and it was right around the same age as your girls went on this trip with you guys. I haven't seen your girls since they were like, I think 3 and 5 years old. Like, I'm not kidding. I don't even have a picture in my head of what they look like. But so that was kind of a catalyst to just being connected to go, or was there any inclination at that time that you're like, this would be kind of a cool place to work?
I never thought. It's not that it wasn't going to be a cool place.
You're back. Okay.
So before we got the phone call from Ryan Sudsbury, I had 2 guys.
Yeah.
One being Doug Foster, that I've known for 30 years, and the other being Mark Zarowski, who was an executive pastor at Grace in the Phoenix area.
Yeah.
But they've since moved out to Green Bay, Wisconsin. Both of them said, when we started looking and for what our next was going to be, said, hey, have you thought about Go? Like, you light up different when you're talking about Go. And I honestly had not thought about Go until they said that.
Well, we had that conversation around the fire pit last year.
Okay.
And we remember you and I sat, we hadn't met in a long time. I ran into you at church. I was just in town with my family. And one of the things you talked about was just how much you loved organic church growth. And like how you just wanted to get a group of guys around the fire and just teach them about Jesus. And you loved watching people. And you felt like that was just something that you couldn't stop yourself from being passionate about.
Yeah.
And I just remember thinking, after you told me this, I'm like, 1,000 churches, and then you're saying this, and I didn't know that was even the goal when you talked about that today. And then how? I'm like, of course this is why you guys are going down there. And then to hear, Shanna, you talk about your organizational skills and some of the things you were doing, I'm just like, so God was orchestrating this like,
oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Forever. Like I'm in for a long time.
Yeah. And we were actually introduced to Go before that through a friend, and that's how we got to go down there the first time for a vision trip, where she was helping speak into their residency at the time.
And that makes total sense. And to catch people up that maybe didn't listen to the service or didn't get a chance to stay, this organization has a medical, a sports, and then basically a leadership development thing / seminar. So it's like how to help people lead other people, but also how to help people grow, both spiritually and it sounds like emotionally and probably wholly as like a person. That is such a unique setup. I mean, it really is.
No, it is.
And so inside that, organically you're trying to create small, and correct me if I'm right, you're wrong, trying to create small movements of the gospel that creates these kind of centralized small little groups of people that we would distinguish as a church. And you're trying to do 1,000 of those in 10 years. What year are they in right now? Is this like year one of that 10 years? Do we know?
It's a great
They're in year 3.
They're in year 3.
And they've already, they're 185 into it.
Okay.
And Ryan would tell you, it's not about the number.
No, it's the big hairy goal.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
the big hairy goal.
Yeah.
And I mean, if you hit it, that's awesome, but you wouldn't call it a ceiling. You'd be like, hey, we did it. All right, we're done. We're out of here.
It's like, man, if we get 1,000 easy, it's like, let's do 2,000.
Well, and you know this, like church growth, it's not. It's Holy Spirit driven. It's not like
Right.
you can just get out there and go put enough man hours in, you'll get a church. It's like
No.
God's got to be in it.
Yeah.
And so you guys are leaving here in October, is that right? So what's the next 3 to 6 months look like for you guys to get out there? Do you guys have a plan? I mean, English school,
Yeah. Yes, our house is selling, so that is kind of been step one.
Praise to God.
I know. Yes. We'll be around, kind of finishing up things here, just in Arizona and around, seeing some family and doing some stuff like that.
Yeah.
Then we'll head that way, and then it's going to be Spanish, learning Spanish, setting up our house, whatever that looks like, getting the things we need, figuring out what even culture requires of us. Probably the job side of things will be us just being there, listening, taking in what's kind of happening, doing all that.
For sure.
Probably be back at Christmas time. Most of the missionaries come back at Christmas, so we'll be back. And then when we hit in January, then it'll kind of be like, all right.
Now you're on the treadmill.
Now we're, now it's time to go.
Now you're like, oh my gosh, you hit the ground running.
Yes.
Yeah.
So-
Here we go.
And then for Go Ministries in general, spring break is a busy time.
Oh, yeah.
Summer, that's when trips come. So there will be a lot to just learn the ropes for all of
I was
it.
gonna say it probably feels like there's like more like DR related things that you're doing, and then trips become a priority, and the rhythms of that you'll have to learn over the next couple years.
Yep.
And I would assume that, as you've mentioned too, that there's the DR is not the only place that goes involved. So having what that looks like to even be a part of creating movement,
Yes.
and
Yeah.
getting to foster those relationships, us included, the partnerships and creating those rhythms. And even as John, our youth guy, was asking, like the specifics of like how long it takes to trip. In my mind, I'm going like, yeah, we have ideas. I'm sure they're like.
And here's the thing: when he was asking about that, I was remembering when we first did it, because I didn't have a clue as far as the rhythm of timelines and like 3 months, 6 months, 9. I'm kind of like, if you think of it, you can just do it,
Yeah.
And so I was like, well, we can like go in like 3 months, and everybody started laughing. And 6, and so it just, but you get into that rhythm, and pretty soon in 5 years, you've taken 100 people out there.
Well, and that's how it was at several of the churches that I attended stuff with. It was a year. You would go, you'd meet in July, and then you're like, next July we're going to da 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 da, and then Christmas you had to have a certain amount, and you had to have it fully paid off by a certain point.
Right.
Why the Dominican Republic as a place? The question wasn't really asked. I mean, it seems decently stable. It seems to have a lot of positive qualities that you were talking about, even in culture. But like, how did this thing start? Like, where did the ground roots of this just pop out of the earth? Did someone go down there and just? So Mother Teresa started this, and now we're just going to continue her work.
As far as I know, Mother Teresa's not been.
Well, it is one of the things that we love about Go Ministries is that it is a family ministry, and that's how it started. The Gabriel family lived in the neighborhood in Santiago, and the dad thought, I think this area needs a church, and he planted a church.
Wow.
With him and his family and his kids. And out of that came this whole ministry.
Wow.
Brooke, who is the founder on this side of the equation, he then went on a trip, met the Gabriel family. They became a partnership, and that's sort of how it grew. And out of that became a medical center, a school, a sports complex. Like all of that grew out of the church.
And what's a timeline on that? Like,
Oh gosh, I probably should know, but I mean,
For all that,
Isaias is in his
30
20s or 30s, then
I mean, it's at least 30 years
At
on their
least 30.
website.
Yeah, I was just
Yeah.
wondering. Because when you talk about it, it is all this stuff, and
Yeah.
I'm like, that stuff doesn't happen on accident.
Yeah.
Where like all this stuff just
Uh-huh.
begins.
yeah. But it also shows their heart for church planting
Yeah,
because it started with the church.
Yeah.
And Isaias will say that. He'll be like, my dad had a heart for the church, and out of that birthed everything else.
well, and I think each culture, it's crazy, but those things meet the needs of the culture in a way that the church should, and and it really should be the centerpiece.
Yeah.
If I was going to start a church in the United States, I'd put a coffee shop on one side, and I'd put a gym on the other, and I'd put a daycare in the back,
Yeah.
because it would meet the needs of the community, especially like right around here, in a way. And then we just say, oh, and there's a service in here if you'd like to come. You know what I mean? But I think
Right.
organically that creates, and that's part of the reason why Kingsway has a daycare here, and it's the only one in town right now. And so you want to talk
Smart.
about connections to the community. It's not a business to me. It's a service. So even though we have to charge and maintain it, hopefully it creates that connection. I think that's what wisely has been done
Yeah.
in the DR. Now, what part or what are you most excited about to see? Because I know like it could be like the church planning side. I think is probably yours. The seminary leadership side is probably yours. Like, do you personally have like contacts right now, or people that you're starting to build relationships with, or are you still in like the beginning stages of learning names and getting things down to like?
Somewhere in the middle of that.
Yeah.
Because we've been out there however many, 4 years and straight.
Yeah,
And then our oldest daughter, who's 20, Emma.
she may be the most connected then.
Yeah. She was an intern there.
Yeah.
And then we started supporting, one of the guys out there. So, so a lot of people are known to us. The people that are not known are like anybody that's new or
Yeah.
anybody that's outside of our ministry focus area, or maybe the office in Louisville. We met everybody personally, but we didn't know them before that, because that's a lot of the back end office things.
logistic
which is
stuff.
huge.
It has to be there. And
So,
how much of
yeah.
the leadership stuff did they have they already used from what you came out there to help them with? Are they
they have a residency program that's up and running that we got to kind of help with, but that they took and made their own, and that's going at this point. So
do you see your fingerprints on any of that,
there
or
are definitely some
okay?
ways that you're like, oh, I see that, or that's great, or it's kind of interesting to see that.
That's really exciting though, because you feel like there's obviously things you guys need to learn culturally wise, and obviously the language is probably going to be the biggest. I know this. I talk for a living, so the idea of someone taking that gift away, or like that ability away, is like the thing that I'm like, okay, so now how do I do this? Like
That was the one thing that was like the hang up
yeah,
for me and her, was like, so we're not going to be like directly teaching like we have in the past. So this is pouring into local leaders and empowering them to do the work.
yeah. So that's the biggest fear, or that was the biggest thing to overcome.
It's not a fear as much as it is like honestly feeling like, okay, this is like, it's not so much like, oh, this is my crutch. Maybe it is, I don't know, but it's more like, oh, I know that God's gifted me to do this, and I've spent a lot of years learning things that I pass along, and how to teach certain things, and what to say, and what those kind of things. And then that's kind of going away a little bit.
Oh yeah,
And not forever, but just right now. And then there's still ways for us to connect with our partners and use that. Because
Google Translate's awesome.
Yeah.
Google Translate, you put that AI on it, and I won't even have to come up with anything.
No,
I
man,
just say,
it'll just be glasses. And
Here.
it'll just read it. It's right here, bro.
It'll even translate menus.
Uh-huh.
If you
100%.
put
Take
the
a
camera
picture.
on it,
Yep.
and it does the whole thing.
When I went to Cairo, I tried to learn Aramaic for like a day, and I couldn't even remember the alphabet.
Yeah.
But Google Translate was so amazing.
Yeah.
It's like I'm trying to order at KFC, and I'm just like pointing.
we
at
did that
things,
in
like,
Brazil.
that thing right here,
thing.
please. No, I mean that brings up a deep insecurity in me at the thought that if my tongue went away or I had the inability to communicate, I would feel misunderstood. I would feel like people wouldn't get my heart. Like I feel like all of a sudden the wisdom and everything that I've gained, it's gone. You know, it feels very similar like 2 Corinthians where Paul's like talking about like take this thorn of the flesh out. Like I would be a lot stronger and more capable if you would take this out. And God's like, nah, I just need the weak little pathetic you to just do what I need you to do.
It is like hitting reset, like, because, you know, you heard me in the message, you know, I just walk into places and start talking to people and build a relationship and start, at that point, it just starts this process of sharing my life. And, you know, like, I like doing that. And when we were there last time, we were in a coffee shop and I saw 2 young people up there talking. I thought, oh, I'm gonna go give them a hard time and figure out how to connect with them. And I'm like, I don't speak Spanish.
Yep.
You know, but I'm gonna learn Spanish.
Yeah.
So
You're
that'll
be
be
the
a
gringo for a little bit.
Yeah, that'll be a
man,
new
not
way.
forever.
But that being said, like at the same time, the first time we went for a mission trip, not the vision trip, we worked with a baseball team that was college age.
Yeah.
And you know, they spoke okay English, not great. So we were all trying to talk to each other. And some of them I still text on WhatsApp now.
Yeah.
You know, so there's ways to connect and be relational. And I'll be learning Spanish. We both will as we go.
I don't think you're going to struggle with it as much as you think. I think because of the similarities of Spanish to English, I know just in like the 2 to 3 week trips I would take to like Mexico and stuff. You know, I think I am so motivated to connect with people and so motivated to be able to share my heart that like language became like I will figure this out.
Yeah.
Because I want to be able to talk to people.
Yeah.
And I think Spanish is beautiful. The way that, you know, they can say things. I mean, it's not quite French, but it's like it's pretty. I mean, my corazón, my
It's like a
heart,
romantic.
you know,
it's like a romantic.
It's a very fun language.
Shanna's gonna fall in love with me all
So
over again.
she might, man. You start learning a little
like,
dancing down there.
We've never fallen in love in Spanish before.
I wrote you a love song.
This is gonna be fun.
Oh my gosh. So let me ask you this: if I had a daughter, or if I had one of my sons do an internship, the interns I feel like get the nitty gritty, and they are like the ones that are like the peons of like the organizations.
Yeah.
So if she's still a fan of them, that's a pretty good sign, right? I mean, that's a pretty good sign. Did she
was
come back with
definitely
a
a good
glowing
sign.
recommendation? Was that
For
part
sure.
of it? Okay.
I mean, it kind of hurt her feelings a little bit. She's like, I want to stay.
So does she feel like she's intruding on her territory? You're like coming in, you're like,
why are you guys
exactly.
going now?
It was.
This was my place.
It was an interesting conversation.
Yeah.
That's for sure. She's super supportive.
Do you, now, what is she studying at Grand Canyon?
Social work.
Social work.
Okay.
Yeah.
So does she want to be like a social worker? Like
She does, but not in some ways. I think a nonprofit is what she
more of an
sees
advocate.
Her,
Okay.
for her future. Not probably not like a CPS.
She had
or-
missions as her minor the first year, but figured out that she was getting all the same classes if she didn't have that as her minor, and it got her nothing in terms of open doors.
That's
or
so smart.
Access
Just
to anything.
don't play the game to get the extra word on the diploma.
Right.
For more money. Yeah. So how about your youngest? Is your youngest excited? I always get Emma. Is that
Allie?
Allie, and your oldest is
Emma.
Emma.
Yeah,
okay,
you
that's
got it.
where I get them mixed
Yeah.
up. Okay, so Allie. So she just graduated high school. She doesn't have a boyfriend, obviously, because she's going for a year.
We don't let them date till they're 25.
I was gonna be my next question. Is like, is this like is there like a betrothals over in the Dominican? Is that like?
Maybe.
Well,
Maybe. Hand wrap and
I still need to save up a little more for their dowry. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Well, I was just thinking, it's like you're taking her, and was this her decision, or I know we had talked privately a little bit about this, but like, was the conversation a challenge to her? I think you had said they had even a couple people in her life to kind of said you should do this.
Just tell them about it.
yeah, she. So we had very much let the girls kind of decide how this was going to fit into their story and what that meant for them. We didn't want to necessarily be like, you have to come. But we wanted them both to come in some way, shape, or form. And Emma, even our older one,
playing hard to get. I get it. You're like, no,
she
if
will
you don't
come
want me.
During the summer for several months, and that'll be great. But Allie kind of, I think, was not planning on it. And we really just kind of got to the place where we're like, this would be so great for you. It's like a gap year, and you can learn Spanish and
it's so smart.
Get this with experience with your parents.
And Ricardo's down there ready to marry you, and you don't even know it yet.
Exactly.
I was only thinking about the positive aspects of the romantic language. No, that'd be great if she found somebody.
No, I really do think I failed. I passed one class my first year of college at Chandler Gilbert Community College. I passed rock history and culture. I studied Aerosmith for 6 months, and I passed. And Ozark took it as a humanities credit. And I remember I was like, they didn't take my math classes, but they took my rock history and culture. But I was thinking how much I would trade that whole year to do something like that, and like to have the opportunity to go and be a part of that.
Especially if you didn't pass any of the classes.
Exactly, dude. I was too busy playing Counter-Strike and eating pizza.
I mean, hindsight's 2020.
Man. It was another time. But I was just thinking how much of an incredible gift. And the parents are often told time is short. They'll be gone before you know it. But what a gift to have another year, and then to be able to learn something like that. It's like a trench warfare friendship. It's like you're gonna go in here. We'll be very clear on who we're trying to. This is the enemy of language and missing everyone, and we're gonna cling to each other. But we're also doing it with a purpose.
And I know it's cliche, to say this to Christian people. But it's true and it's powerful, is that we've had so much confirmation that this is of God.
Yeah.
That, that's what you fall back on when things are hard.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, God opened this door. Oh, God made that happen. Oh, God provided the way. So one of the things one of our realtors said, Joe, he said, God wouldn't have brought you this far just to drop you now.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like that.
Is that Joe Conway?
Yeah.
Is that Joe? Oh, I love Joe.
Yeah, I was bugging him like, hey, man. So Doug was our realtor, and he did an awesome job. Like, I can't imagine another realtor being as good as I'm not kidding.
Yeah.
So
he's always been super talented.
He's so good. But he went on vacation. They went yachting or something, or
we went on a cruise.
Oh, okay.
It's a very big yacht.
So they went on this Disney yacht and for a week, right in the middle of when we have to, it's crunch time, And Joe stepped in for the week. So I
sold the house then.
No,
I'm just kidding.
No, but he was great. He came over, looked at the house. Even though Doug had already done all that, he just wanted us to know we were well cared for. So I was kind of bugging him a little bit, like. He'd be like, hey, is it okay if such and such comes over to look at the house tomorrow at 1? I said, yes, Joe, as long as you make them buy it.
What did you say?
And he laughed, but about the third time, he's like, Pastor, I'm sure I don't have to tell you this, but God's got this under control. He started like
giving you the sermonette, man.
Pastor and me. But one of the things that Shanna, read and said was memorable was, that comment, where, hey, God brought you this far. He hadn't brought you this far just to drop you.
Oh, yeah. Well, and I know we talked about this a little bit because, I moved around more, and I've seen this 3 or 4 times in my lifetime where, I moved at 7 years old and then moved to Oregon, and all the experiences of Oregon are some of the best experiences of my life. And so even though I was really sad to leave at 7, I was very happy to be there. At 16, I was devastated that we were leaving. My baseball career was just getting off the ground. I thought for sure this was where I needed to be, and then met Katrina within a couple years of being here, and it's changed my whole life. Moved here, it wasn't necessarily where I thought we were going to stay. We talked about all the time. We're like, we'll get back to the promised land, which is Arizona.
Not Oregon.
No. We're going back for the first time in 2 weeks. But that's a whole other thing. But now I can't imagine our life having not been at Kingsway this long, and what God has continued to do and the way that he's crafted things. Confirmation. It's just it's total confirmation over and over again of like, well, did we miss the opportunity? Did we miss the thing that God was calling us to? Or we were supposed to be somewhere else? And it's like, no, what are you talking about? It's exactly where you're supposed to be.
Did you tell them about the 2 people that helped Allie? Because Allie decided for herself.
Yeah,
we didn't tell her she had to come.
Deciding for herself, and it really came not from us. It came from a parent friend and a coach kind of environment.
Just stepped up.
Who just said, you should really do that. I can't believe, yes, I would do that in a heartbeat. And that was what kind of caused
pushed her over the edge.
Yeah,
she came in, I'm on the couch, she goes, and she was in the back room and said, hey, Dad, I think I made a decision. I'm like, about what? And she's like, well, the DR, such and such told me. I go, hang on, time out. I'm going to go get Mom.
Hold on. If I'm going to be devastated or elated, I need to not be alone right now.
Let's go get Mom. So, and it was good news. So,
yep.
That is so cool. Well, I know there's probably 10,000 things you're going to learn and 10,000 things that you don't know right now. I think it's amazing, though, that maybe not the 10,000 reasons that God has confirmed at this point, but there's definitely a confidence in the way you guys are approaching this that it seems to be like a piece that goes beyond your understanding. It seems to be a little bit of like, God's got some faithfulness that I've not just proven over the last 4 years, but in your whole life. There's just been a reflection. And I do think that stepping out of a larger church scene, plugging into somewhere for 20 years and then stepping out from that is a challenging thing to do. And I'm really, really proud of both of you. I'm so excited to see what God's going to do. I think there's a willingness in this that brings excitement to me to just go like, I want people to have a chance to go down there and have that life-changing experience. And when you guys are talking in the room over there and sharing what your dream was, we have that same dream. Like it is truly another confirmation that's like, there are 3 or 4 families in there that have already been like, can we take they're like 3 and 5-year-old kids. That was exactly like, oh crap, you have to wait a little bit. But they might come with the youth, or they might come and they are gung ho. And so to say that we're just one church, we're just one place, one partner, but I think we're just the beginning. I really do think that. And
to that family, if they want to bring their 3 or 5-year-olds, don't hear me saying I'm crushing your dream. Like they're gonna come and be like, "Well, she's nice and she's fine with the kids, but I know he doesn't want them here." I'm like, that wasn't it. No. I was just trying to help you. And your kids may be totally different,
Oh, I couldn't get my kids from Springfield to here without wanting to strangle them. So we are not there yet. We are not there yet. I have not felt the calling. Yeah. However, we won't be there. It won't be too long. And I definitely would love to do like a 3-generational thing where my dad and me, that would just be, that'd be awesome. Really cool.
Your dad would be, both your parents would be great on that trip.
Oh, they would. Here's the funny thing. My mom would love it because the facilities thing has always been the thing. She's like, because my dad's going to Ethiopia in like 3 weeks.
Yeah, he was telling me about that.
My mom thinks he's
right
crazy.
After he was talking about how he set you and Katrina up.
Yep. Yeah. Wide range. Well, thank you so much for coming on. And as always, I want to make sure that we leave this open. If you want to get to know more about what they're doing and the organization they're with, I'll try to have Ryan put the links in there, as well as your email to get on your guys' email for support or partnership. You guys have made it very clear that financial, though it is important, the prayer aspect, and then even the potential of just being aware and knowing that you're not alone, and maybe even a physical partnership happening in the near future would be amazing. All that being said, if there's other things that we didn't cover and you want more questions, feel free to email Ryan or I, or leave a comment, and I'm sure they'll have a chance to possibly get that or see that. If you found this to be amazing, you can always subscribe, share it with a friend. If there's other people that you know would want to hear this or thinking about short-term mission stuff, please let that out there. And as always, feel free to tune back in and check this out whenever you have a chance. Leave a rating on our podcast. It always helps. And Shanna, I'm excited for you guys.
Thank you.
Hopeful.
Thank you.
Yeah. Have a great and glorious day in the Lord. See you next time.
Thanks.
Good job, man. You're good at that. You've done that a few times.
I have done it.